Dear learners, welcome to Learning with Fun. I warmly welcome you back to the series of videos on which I have been discussing figures of speech. Today, I'll be discussing two figures of speech, namely climax and anticlimax. So, without wasting a single second, let's get into it. Dear learners, before I make a start on these two figures of speech, I would just like to tell you that I made two videos discussing some figures of speech. In one video, I discussed antithesis, epigram, paradox, oxymoron, and in the other video, I discussed simile and metaphor. So, if you would like to have the explanations of those figures of speech, you can check the description box. I have left the link in. Now before I start explaining these two figures of speech, I would just like to tell you a kind of anecdote. Suppose you're watching an interesting movie with your friend sitting next to you and she is disturbing you by talking nonsense. So you tell her, "Stop talking nonsense. Let me watch the movie. The climax is going on right now." Now the question naturally arises what a climax is. As far as the movie you are watching is concerned, the climax means the most important or the most exciting part of the movie. And remember, the climax comes at the later part of a movie, almost on the verge of getting over. Now, how do I relate the climax of a movie to the figure of speech I'm going to focus on? Imagine a ladder with a person going up to the peak of it. Likewise, a climax goes up with a series of words, phrases or ideas. Let's have a look at the definition. In this figure, a series of words, phrases or ideas is arranged in an ascending order. These two words, ascending order, have to be focused on as per importance. That means they are arranged according to the importance of the words or ideas or phrases. Look at the first example. I came, I saw, I conquered. First, the least important verb came is set. Secondly, a more important word or verb saw is set. And after that comes the most important idea or the word conquered. And this is how a climax is done. Look at the second example. To strive, to seek, to find and not to yield. This is a very famous line from Ulysses by Lord Alfred Tennyson. To strive means to try hard. And after that, to seek, to find, and the most important part, which is not to yield, comes at last. Here, Ulysses does not want to give in. He wants to continue his quest of knowledge and adventure. And that is why he does not want to yield, means he does not want to give in, he does not want to surrender. Well, let's have a look at the third example. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. This is a very famous line from Of Studies by Francis Bacon. Some books are to be tasted means some books are to be read a bit or in parts. Some books are to be swallowed. Swallowed means to be read but not so curiously. But there are few books which have to be read completely with diligence and rapt attention. That means you have to understand the nuances of the meaning of what is written. Now let's have a look at the trick I have written down. The first point is that the word climax, which is a Greek word, means a ladder. And the second point is that the words, the ideas or the phrases which are there in the climax should be set in the ascending order. Just look at that. I have drawn badly a ladder with two arrows pointing upwards just to make it easier for you so that you can understand what a climax actually is. Look at the fourth example, which is an easy one. He watched her, loved her, married her. First, he watched her, that is the least important thing, and after that, he grew some relationship with her, that is the second important thing, and after that, or finally, he married her, that is the most important thing. So the most important thing or the most exciting part comes at the last part of the climax. Well, now I would just like to move on to the next figure of speech, which is called anticlimax. Remember, an anticlimax is just the opposite of climax. Look at the word anti, meaning opposite. This figure of speech is also known as BATHOS. Now look at the definition. A sudden fall from the lofty to the mean or commonplace is seen in this figure. It produces or evokes laughter. So there are 2 points that have to be focused on. There is a sudden fall from the lofty to the mean. What does it mean? It means there is a sudden fall from the sublime to the ridiculous. That means from something great to something ordinary or commonplace. And the purpose of an anticlimax is to produce laughter. That means when we listen to an example of an anticlimax, we start laughing. Well, look at the trick I have written down. There is a sudden fall, the first point is, and the second point is that it produces laughter. Look at the examples written over there. Forgets a prayer or miss a masquerade. This is a very nice line from The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. Forgets a prayer means it is something so sublime, it is something so important, and it is something that relates to God. So forgets a prayer or miss a masquerade. Masquerade means it's a kind of dance. Remember, forgetting a prayer is just akin to, as it is deliberately made, is akin to forgetting or missing a masquerade, which is just a trifling thing. Well, and it definitely produces laughter. Look at the second example, which is an easy one. He lost his own life. His own life was of paramount importance. That was the most important thing in his life. His luxurious car. Suppose he lived on, he could buy so many luxurious cars. So the cars or the car that he lost is of almost no importance. And think of a few rupees. It definitely produces laughter, doesn't it? A few rupees. So the most important thing in his life was his life. And after that, a less important thing, which was his car. And at last, a few rupees is written, and this produces a lot of laughter, doesn't it? Yes, you guessed it right. It really does. Now, we would just like to have a comparative study of the 2 figures of speech I have just discussed, climax and anticlimax. In the case of a climax, the words, ideas or phrases are set in an ascending order. That means it goes up according to the importance. And in the case of an anticlimax, it is just the opposite. That means all these things are arranged in a descending order. What about the next one? The next point is that a climax produces laughter, does not produce laughter, whereas an anticlimax does. Now, I would just like to move on to a few more examples to make these 2 figures of speech a little easier. In fact, I deliberately made a few examples of climax into anticlimax or BATHOS. Look at first example. He lost his one hand, his 2 legs and life. Remember, one hand is the least important thing as far as his life was concerned, and after that a little more important thing, 2 legs. One hand and after that 2 legs. 2 legs are more important than one hand. And finally we have the word life, which is the most important thing. He lost his life. Okay. In the case of an anticlimax, it could be like this. He lost his life, 2 legs and 1 hand. Doesn't it produce laughter? Yes, it does. You have guessed it right. Look at the second one. I walked, I ran, I flew. First, he walked, and after that, a little more important thing, he ran, and finally, he flew as if. Look at the example of anticlimax. I flew, I ran, I walked. And this produces laughter as well. Look at the third example. He saw a beast, a man, a god-man, and God. All these words are arranged according to their importance. And if we invert this, it will definitely produce laughter. And that is what happened in the case of third one. He saw God, a god-man, man, and a beast. Well, thanks for watching.